Kia ora, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. This video is going to be a writing update. In my last writing update, which I'll attempt to link or whatever it is, the thing up there, if I can figure out how it's done. In that video I was talking about how I've been trying to convert a massive serial down into just a little novel. And I think at the time I had managed to get myself down to 100,000 words. I'm now down to 96,511, I think. So I still have a way to go, but progress, all progress is appreciated, even little progress. I've basically just done this by tightening up scenes that I already knew needed work. I haven't axed chapters or anything like that. I've also completely deleted a subplot, which sounds like I've deleted massive sections, but it turned out that it didn't take up quite as much word count as I thought it had, which also tells me that I hadn't really written it up and invested in it as much as I needed to pull it off. So I'm feeling quite confident now that I made the right decision in cutting that subplot. What's interesting actually is that what made me originally decide to cut that subplot was the realization, after talking to a friend, that that subplot is so big and also kind of irrelevant to the Camino de Santiago that it could be a story on its own. So to get it to work in the story that exists, I needed to put in a lot more work, and of course because I was trying to get the word count down, I was resisting putting that work in and trying to get the subplot to work on a kind of starvation ration of words, and that of course wasn't doing the story justice. So I've taken that out, so now I don't have to worry about doing it poorly because I'm trying to do it very I don't know, tightly, and I can just add that story into my list of stories that I'll one day write, and I can instead invest time in making the stuff that is a little bit more relevant to the character's journey on the Camino, a bit more fleshed out and a bit more effective, hopefully. What I've also done is have a really serious look at the first chapter. So I have two different locations where the story could start. I could have it start in New Zealand or in Europe because my character's a New Zealander who goes to Europe. So if I have it start in New Zealand, then I have these opportunities to show you the character's normal, like where she lives and what she does for a living, all that kind of thing, and I can show you her motivations and her decision to go and do the Camino. If I don't have that chapter, and instead have the second option, which is my character starting the Camino being the first chapter, if I do that, then I have to take all of those little things that we could have learned about the main character in New Zealand, like where she lives and motivations, and I have to then scatter it through the later chapters to avoid having a giant info dump in the first chapter. Is this even making any sense at all? Anyway, so what I need to do is commit to either keeping a first chapter spent in New Zealand, but edit that down so that the reader's attention doesn't become unnecessarily fixated on characters which will never reappear because the character, like just the main character, leaves New Zealand. So all the people that she knows in New Zealand have very limited appearance in the story, and I'm a little bit concerned that if I have a really fun character in that opening scene, people will become emotionally attached to her and then she'll cease to exist. So I need to adjust that kind of stuff and make sure that that's not going to happen, and I need to maybe build up my character's decision to go on the Camino, because at the moment it seems a little bit random. The reason I think it seems random is because it was, like, this is a story that's inspired by my experiences. I didn't put a lot of thought into doing the Camino. I did it because I had just finished my master's degree. I had been scrimping and saving, like, you know, pennies a week for a really long time, and I had this little fund to go and do something, and the Camino was cheap. That was pretty much my thought processes. I already knew it existed, and I did a quick Google, looked at the prices of walking the Camino versus going on a tour around a couple of European countries, and realised that I could spend a significantly longer period of time in Europe if I walked the Camino de Santiago than if I did anything else. And so I was like, well, decision made then. That isn't my character's motivation. She has not just finished her masters, and I think I don't know, it seemed like a good idea at the time, isn't really a good motivation to kick off a novel with. So I think I've written it in a very scant way because my personal experience was kind of scant and impulsy, but my character's experience isn't that, so I need to invest and bulk out her motivations and her decision to do it. Or I do none of that and I just start my character off in Spain on her journey, and then I tell you anything that's important as it seems important going through. My concern with that latter option, even though it's probably the better one for getting the reader to understand the tone of the story and avoiding distractions, my concern is that that might be a little bit too similar to the structure that's used by other stories of a similar type. I've had critiquers compare my work to Wild and Into the Wild, neither of which I have read. But from the movie Wild, I saw it was, it's her starting her journey, and then it was flashbacks to events that made her go on it to begin with, and I'm a little bit concerned that my story will end up looking similar. I don't think that's entirely avoidable because my story is also about a woman going on a lone journey to hike an incredibly long distance. So it's not avoidable, but the way that I structure the story could make it worse. So I have to have a really serious think about that. So that's what I've been doing and will continue to be doing for the next week or so, I suspect. Wish me luck. And if you liked this video, do the various clicking of buttons, and I'll see you next week. Bye. I think the ending that I just recorded makes it really clear that this is not my first take, that I'm getting really frustrated and just want to stop.